There are people in our lives that in the journey may have come or stay, or just for a moment, they pass by our lives. And they help us see who we truly are. And we talk about mirroring each other and modeling to one another, and what Jesus said, loving one another. I just want to honor today my cousin Josche with all of you. Most of you prayed, cried, and suffered with me in the time that he was struggling with COVID. Some of you might not know, but he was intubated for 7 days, 6 days. He'll tell the story. And what I realized, I have told him all my life how much I love him. And he has told me, it's not something that when we die, we're going to say, oh, how come I didn't say this? But I always, when he was not available to even answer my text, because we were talking until he was intubated, I thought, I don't want to live without him. But deep down inside, I don't want to live without knowing who I am. When I'm with Josche, when I see the smile and the way he looks at me, like Giovanna, like Lucky, when some of you, when I show up, that smile, it's like a mirror that reminds me who I am. That's what we should all become for others. I don't want to forget who I am. And if this is who I am one day, I'll come and show it to you. And when you see this, I want it to be real. So I didn't have to tell Josche all the story, all that I had bottled up, but he was there for me. And I just wanted to honor you and thank you for being a beacon of light in my life. I'm here because of you. Just so you know, there's a machine here that zaps all the bacteria. And there's another one there too. And one in my neck, if you want to put it.
Thank you, Gigi, for your amazing words. I think every feeling that you send towards me, I hope you feel it back. Well, Gigi has already introduced me. I'm Josche. Gigi's is my sister. We were for a long period of time only children, and the circumstances in our lives brought us very close together. Even when my two other sisters were born, there was this relationship with Gigi and Shumi that we have kept very close. I think my two sisters are a little jealous that Gigi and Shumi are so close. Anyhow, I'm here first and foremost to thank you because many of you prayed for me when I was sick. And I wanted to let you know and be testimony to the strength of those prayers. That energy and that love, it makes a difference. And now that I look back on those difficult times, I can see that those prayers were to some degree vouching for my life in God's eyes. And I think that that love and that energy makes a difference because it helps. I always wonder, why do some people survive difficult circumstances and others don't? And I think that part of it is that strength and that prayer and that energy of so many people loving you, making a case for you to stay here because you still have a mission to accomplish. You still have love to give and you have many things to do. I'm going to start by telling you my short story. I have many stories in life, but I'm going to focus on my most recent experience. And it was back in March. We were planning a family trip to Paris in Spain. My oldest son was in New York, and my youngest one was in London. We have vacations in Ecuador, in Guayaquil, are March and April. So my boys were off during having classes, and the one in New York was having classes to prepare for his SAT, and my younger one was in London in an exchange program just for the experience. And we were preparing to go to Paris to meet with both of them and have a family vacation when the whole world turned upside down with the pandemic. We immediately had to cancel the trip, and we got the boys back to Ecuador in their last flights in, because they closed the airport, and we were just in time to bring them back. When they got back, my wife and I decided to quarantine with them. We thought that they were high risk cases because Jose, my oldest one, had been in New York, the epicenter of the COVID at that time. And the other one had been in London and traveled through Amsterdam. So we said, we'll just stick together. We'll stay the quarantine in the house. And I went shopping and I bought supplies for 40 days. And we had the fridge stocked up and all that. And I was said, oh, no, we misjudged the severity and the risk of the virus. And a couple of days after they got back, I started feeling sick. Had a high fever and a terrible headache. And a couple of days after that, I had the COVID test and it came back negative. So my doctor kept saying, with that negative test, you shouldn't come to the hospital because everybody here in the hospital is sick. So if you don't have the virus and you come to the hospital, you're going to get sick. And days went by, and he always asked, are you feeling shortness of breath? And I said, no, I don't feel any shortness of breath. So come on, keep it up, and you will be able to overcome this virus. You're strong, and I'm keeping a close watch on you. Days went by, and I wouldn't recover, and I kept feeling worse and worse. I had never shortness of breath, and at some point, my wife just said, you can't. After 8 days of 40 degrees in Celsius, how much fever that is, but it was very high. And at some point, after 8 days of this, my wife said, I don't care if the doctor says that you can't come to the hospital. You can't go on one more day like this. And the doctor said, let's have an oximeter or an oxygenation test. And my blood oxygenation was at 83%. So he said, no, that's not possible. Get another device, because if he has an 83%, he should be having shortness of breath. So imagine everything in Ecuador was closed because the virus in Ecuador, in Guayaquil, hit very hard because since everybody was traveling, everybody came back at the same time, and the people were dying every day. I mean, they didn't have the health services was so backed up that if somebody died, they wouldn't be able to pick them up 1 week or 2 weeks after. And they had some people in the poorer areas were burying their dead ones in any ground that they would find, because simply it was chaotic. So my wife was able to get another oximeter, and she did the test, and it was 83%. And so he said, bring him immediately to the hospital. And when I got to the hospital, he checked me and he said, but I can't hear any problems in your lungs? It's very strange. Are you sure you're not feeling a shortness of breath? And I said, no, I don't feel any shortness of breath. So they took me to the CT scan, and one of my lungs was completely uh, collapsed, and the other one was halfway there. And he kept saying, I can't believe that you're not feeling shortness of breath. So he tried for 5 days to treat me with oxygen masks. I kept joking with my wife, saying that since this was so new, they didn't even know what they were doing. So they brought new machines in boxes, and I saw them struggling to put them together. And I was joking with my wife, saying, why don't I help them? I mean, I can read the instructions. And they would put a cold mask, a warm mask. They would do many things, and the doctor. I mean, I was blessed that my wife's family has a hospital, and one of the doctors is a very close relative, and I not only call him my doctor but my angel nowadays. I was treated. I was able to get into a hospital. There weren't any spaces in any hospitals. I was blessed to have this connection, because some people couldn't. When I got to the hospital, there were people outside the hospital trying to get treated, and they simply didn't have beds for all the sick people. So. After the 5 days of trying this and trying that, I thought that we were doing well. The doctor kept telling my wife that I wasn't doing well, that things weren't improving, and that if they wouldn't improve, that he would have to put me in induced coma and intubate me. And I was never aware of that. The day they intubated me, I mean, now that I look back, I saw some additional movement in my room, but I was uh, very well taken care of, so I was used to seeing a lot of movement in my room. And they intubated me, and I was one of those blessed cases that was able to recover very fast. Usually the protocol is that it takes 10 days at least in an intubated patient to recover, but I was able to recover very fast. Thank I thank God. I thank all the prayers and all the positive energy, and I thank my doctor, because at that point nobody knew how to treat the virus. So he was seeing what would work. He would put me on my back. He would put me, sit me down. I mean, he was, and the degree of closeness. He obviously knows my kids, knows Natalie, my wife, and he said, I always, for me, I'm a doctor, and I'm faced with life and death every day, but I usually don't know the backstory. And in your case, I was crying when I wasn't in front of the patients, because I didn't know if you were going to make it. So so I was able to recover very fast. While I was intubated and in induced coma, a it was a very strong. I mean, it was a very strange and a very emotionally filled moment. Now that I look back, I was unconscious, but I felt the weight of the moment. I felt that life was in balance, and I felt every prayer that everybody that loved me was sending my way. And I felt the intervention of those that love me, that aren't with us anymore. Wow. I think that I felt that they were vouching for my case, and that's why I'm here. I think that I still have a mission to accomplish, uh, and I feel thankful. I feel blessed I think that what I've learned, and one of the things that I want to share, is that uh, you tend to uh, not value what you have until you're on the verge of losing it. And we always complain about one thing or the other, but when you have faced death, your perspective changes. You wake up every day thankful that you're alive, and you appreciate everything on another level. And I was very fortunate not to look at death in front of me, because I never knew how bad I was, how bad my condition was. So I thank my doctor for not telling me that that my situation was deteriorating, and that he never put death in front of me. I never had to face uh, what I would have, what I would lose if I would die. When I saw death, I saw it behind my shoulder, and that's a completely different thing. It's still very emotional because you realize what you could have lost. When he woke me up and he said, "The worst is behind you," it was very emotional because obviously I started thinking about all the things that I would have missed. It was like a fast forward tape of my life ahead. I would think about my children's graduation and all the other important events in life. So, so it was very emotional. It still is, you can see, and it's been a while. Uh, and I think that I haven't spoken about my wife yet, but I will because she's instrumental to my recovery. And I think that extreme circumstances bring out the best and the worst in people. And you really know who people are under extreme circumstances. So you have to be thankful for the instances in which life puts you in a position to really know who is who. And in my case, my wife was another angel because she's very Catholic, and she has this amazing faith, and faith turns into inner peace when you are able to put your problems in the hands of God, and you trust that the outcome is going to be the best outcome, regardless of it being unpredictable or whatever it is. She was able to, at the same time, keep my children informed, but she transmitted positive energy to them. And since she was always hopeful that I would recover, she transmitted that to the kids, and they always felt very confident that I was in God's hands, and that God would put me through this. And one of the amazing stories is that once I woke up still with the breathing tube in my throat, um, I was desperate to have it taken out, because it's the most. I hope nobody has to experience that, but it's the most. It's not uncomfortable. It's beyond uncomfortable. It's desesperación. I don't know. Desperation when you have this tube down your throat, blowing hot air, and you feel thirsty, and the only thing they can do is put some water on your lips, And at that point, my doctor spoke with my wife and told her to send me a voice note to encourage me. And that voice note made a difference in my life that I will never forget. My wife always jokes that I should never hear that voice note again because it wasn't such a big deal. But for me, it was, I mean, it was the energy and the love that I needed. What she said in that voice note, to summarize it, was that they were doing well, that they were calm, that they were together, that the worst was behind us, and that they had done their part, and that now it was time for me to do my part. And my part was to recover, to listen to the doctor's instructions, and to do whatever I was told to do in order to recover. And that became my anthem during the rest of my stay in the hospital, because it was almost funny how quickly I was able to recover. And I was there with other patients, and they kept saying, "What are they doing to Josche that they're not doing to us?" Because one day they wheeled us into breakfast. The next day I was with one of those walkers. The day after that, I was walking on my own while they were still being wheeled in, and they were going like, "What are they giving to this guy?" I mean, so and I kept reminding myself and joking with the nurses and with the doctors that I would do everything that they told me. They said, I mean, they would pinch me every hour to get my blood oxygen level, and I wouldn't move a hair. I mean, I was the best patient that I could be. So now that I look back, I see things in a different perspective. I'm thankful to be alive, and I think that we often forget uh, how how important that is. I mean, we get caught up in the day to day, and we feel sometimes we have negative thoughts about problems we have in our lives, and we tend to think that our problems are bigger than the other people's problems. But then again, when you realize that just the fact that you're alive is a blessing, it makes everything else look like something very small. And I've changed my life. I think that I value time in a different way. I'm spending a lot more time with my kids. I get home every day and I cook a different recipe, and it's they're mostly very elaborate recipes. So my kids make fun and they take pictures of what I prepare, because they said, this is like a 5-star hotel. And this is funny because I used to complain every time I got home that they would prepare salmon on Mondays, chicken on Tuesdays, and it was a very limited menu, yes, and the recipes were very basic. So I said, in this new life, I'm not going to complain. I'm gonna take things in my hands. So things have changed, and my message is that we have to be thankful for life. We have to be thankful first and foremost for health. We have to be thankful for our families. And the love that I felt from my family, from my friends, was something that still raises the hairs on my arms. I mean, you go through life knowing that people love you, but until you experience how strong that love is, it's overwhelming. I mean, it's something that really changes your life, because with that love comes a lot of responsibility. because I am a person that I feel that I need to give back. If I am loved in such a way, I have to love back in such a way. If somebody cares about me, I have to care back for them. And that's part of of the lesson that I have learned. I used to be more impatient. I used to uh, struggle with giving time to people. And after this experience, where I felt so much love, I feel a great responsibility to give time to the people that love you. Because when I woke up and I said, "My God, I could have died." And if this is how things, if this is how I was going to live things, I wouldn't have been in peace. And what I want now from life is that when I die in peace. And part of that dying in peace is having no debts. And I mean, obviously, not debts. I mean emotional debts. I feel that when I die, I would like everybody to know how much I've loved them, and to know and to feel that they were important to me, and that I spent time with them, and I did the effort to be with them. And that's the difference. And you see people dying in peace, and you see people dying restless. And I think that people that do things the right way and that spend time, that spread love, uh, when the time comes, whichever it is, it may be soon, it may be before we expect it. I think that that makes a hell of a difference. So I thank you all for listening. I thank you all for listening to my story. I've told it in different ways, in many times, and I'm very happy to be here at Gigi's invitation. She has always, I've always admired her. I think she's a survivor, and I'm very happy for the work she's doing here. I can tell you that she puts all her heart into it, and you know that. Okay, thank you very much.
I was telling Georgia that as the healing has continued in my life, I have been able to see the extreme beauty in my family. When Josche was intubated, my whole family was super united, like never before. Even some of my cousins that were estranged, that didn't want to be part of the chat, came in. It's like this extreme fear and sorrow blended in with love, and it bonded us. We often want to get rid of the fear, but this time it was like a birth, like they came together. So Josche is the only man in the family. My grandmother has a sister who has 3 daughters. My grandmother had 5 daughters. My aunt Marlene had 2 daughters and him. My mom had me. Aunt Liliana had 3 daughters. Annie had 2 daughters. Chumi has 3 daughters. So of course we love this guy. But
This guy could not do anything wrong.
so I wanted to honor my family because you've heard a lot of the stories that I have, and we all have to bring out the stuff in the family so we could heal it, so that then you could also see the beauty. So kind of like cleaning the filter. But you see, today we got to see some redemption in all of that. And I want to invite Renato to come up for a moment. Thank you, Josche, for your courage.
No, thank you for inviting me. It's been an honor to be here. And
Thank you.
thank you again for all your prayers. I'm here because of them.
Yeah.